And we are live. Hey, my Facebook world and all of you that are kind of hovering around. Sorry, but I got to talk to Dr. Manicalco first. So we were off screen for a couple minutes, but I'm welcoming you to this broadcast. And first of all, I just want to thank you, Dr. Benedict, for joining us today. There are so many people that are just waiting to hear from you and what you have to say. You are a celebrity in my world, and I'll talk about that quick. But I got to read. This is a long bio, but it's worth reading every minute of it. So hang tight while I read his bio, and then I'm going to let Dr. Benedict talk to us this afternoon now for almost all of us. Dr. Benedict Manicalco has been in the private practice of medicine, specializing in cardiovascular disease since 1976. I was 13, by the way. He is proud to serve. He is proud to serve the key leadership position as the chairman and CEO of Heartbeat International, and you will all must go see what that is. I will put that in the comments later. It is very impressive. Dr. Manicalco, is that how I say it, Doctor?
Manicalco.
Manicalco.
There you go.
There we go. Continues his practice of preventative and consultative cardiology, in addition to serving as medical advisor to multiple companies involved in medically related businesses. He is regarded as an option leader, innovator, and educator in cardiovascular medicine. He has served the American College of Cardiology at the local, state, and national level in leadership roles which have directly influenced health care policy. That's impressive alone. After leaving a faculty position at the University of South Florida School of Medicine, he founded the St. Joseph Heart Institute in Tampa, Florida. He is a member of the American Medical Association, American Heart Association, and a fellow of the American Heart Association, and the American College of Cardiology, the American College of Physicians, the American College of Chest Physicians, and the Society for Cardiac Angioplasty. Are you impressed yet, everybody? Hello. I am. I'm a little stargaze. See these stars coming out of my eyes right now? Dr. Benedict is a graduate of Duke University School of Medicine and obtained his postgraduate training in internal medicine and cardiovascular disease at Emory University affiliate hospitals. That is a mouthful, people, but I just want you to know that who is talking in this interview is credible. If you have credibility, we've got credibility with this guy, this man, this doctor, which I just first of all say that, you know, doctors are my heroes. I can just weep over doctors, nurses in the medical field, doctor, because you are our heroes. You are out there doing what God wants us is have a healed body, and you're out there working to heal bodies. That's a big mission in my eyes and very respectable, and one that I can get very weepy about. But you, doctor, have been very famous in my world. I'll have you know, in that you have the ability to unpackage and describe what this NRF2 activator is, its history, even right down to knowing when it began in the study, and you were in a room that they were talking about what was coming, and your history is just so rich in all this NRF2 activation and our famous little yellow pill. And I'm just wanting to let you talk and share with us, share with us and unpackage what this is doing in our bodies for those of us that are going, okay, we're listening. We are listening right now to a man who has a lot of science of medicine under his belt, but yet he's chosen an all-natural product as well as natural medicine in his practice. He has over 3,500 patients on this, and he's going to tell you why. Doctor, take it away. Please share with us. We are clamoring, and I'm hanging on every word as my stars are around my eyes. I kid you not. I am so stargazed right now, you guys. I'm flushing. I am so honored to have this man. Doctor, thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the kind words. I just hope I won't disappoint you after all that. As I said to you earlier before we got on this broadcast, I like to call myself Benny when I introduce myself to patients, and I do. And that's because I think it's very important that patients know that I'm no different than them. I have the same issues, concerns, wants, needs, and I think it kind of takes the edge off of somebody coming in to see a doctor. Well, I think the journey for me is what I think you want me to talk about, and I like to do that. I think it's very exciting, and by the way, it helps me close a circle in my medical career, and so to me, it's very meaningful. About 50 years ago, in 6 months, I sat in my first medical school biochemistry lecture, and at that time, a Nobel laureate biochemist at Duke University School of Medicine said to all of us, here's how we make energy in the cell. And he went on for about 45 minutes describing what you all know of now as the Krebs cycle, the way in which we make energy by combusting oxygen and food products at the mitochondrial level and make ATP, our energy packet. Well, that was powerful enough, but I was so stargazed by that guy, I couldn't help but keep listening. And one of the comments he made, I wrote down, but never knew what it really meant or would mean to me in the future. So he said, though we know how to make energy and how it all works, we have not yet figured out how the cell handles the byproducts of that energy production, the free radicals. Now, I was a very naive first week medical student, and I didn't even know what a free radical was. So, well, I did, but I didn't know what it meant in his terms. So in short order, about, I don't know, maybe 20 years later, there's a fellow training with him by the name of Joel McCord. I guess you all know who Joel McCord is. He is the father of Protandim, and Joel trained with this same man at Duke University. And he reasoned that there must be something about neutralizing the free radicals that has to do with some chemical enzyme or reaction that occurs in the cell because we're dealing with these free radicals. And look at the plant life. It's very healthy, and they give us our oxygen. So they must have something in there that protects them. And, of course, that was my first hint that I ought to be thinking about a biosphere and the fact that we live in a biosphere and not get so unifocal that I didn't see the bigger picture. Well, it took me a few years, but I did get to finally see the big picture, I think. So Dr. McCord says there must be a chemical reaction, and I'm going to look for it. And by golly, after enough research with he and his colleagues, you all know that Joel McCord discovered, as a co-discoverer, superoxide dismutase. A superoxide dismutase is just the most powerful antioxidant in our body. And so, sure enough, he found it in every plant form and in every mammal form that dealt with oxygen. And then when they studied and studied and studied and kept peeling back the onion, guess what? He figured out what happened. And what he figured out was that there had to be something that regulated the balance or imbalance of what happens when you combust oxygen. And in fact, there is. So if you combust oxygen, make the free radical, you have to neutralize it right away because it's an unstable compound. And because it's unstable, it'll try to hook up with anybody. It's very non-discriminating. It'll hook up to your mitochondria. It'll hook up to your DNA, to your cell membrane. And so that's not good because the minute it does that, it causes an injury. Now, an injury always elicits the response in the body. That's our first line of defense. And that word is inflammation. So inflammation now is the process by which certain chemicals, proteins, are made in our cell and rush to the site of the injury and try to repair it, wall it off, and make it normal again. Well, I think the thing we all have to understand very quickly is that the end result of inflammation, think surgical scar. Think of that scar. That's the end result of all inflammation, a scar. So when that scar happens, what does it do? It replaces normal cell particles, tissues, and whole cells. Well, if you replace enough cells, by golly, sooner or later, you're replacing the whole organ. And that, to all of us, is disease. So disease is the process by which we, out of necessity that gives us life, use oxygen, make free radicals, create scar, and age at the cellular level. That's the whole process. That's the whole coot and caboodle. Well, how does that happen? How do you have so many antioxidants when you're young, and then a few years later you look in the mirror and say, well, look, Benny, where'd your hair go? And, what happened here? And so you now know. It's that process where we age in the cells, replace normal cells with scar. And so our facial configuration changes, our hair changes. Exciting stuff. Not so. We don't like it. But that's aging. So now, if that's true, we must have something in there that causes this to occur. And it is, in fact, the process by which when we get out into the normal biosphere we live in and have toxins we're exposed to, and gases and metals and fertilizers and products in our foods that cause more production of free radicals, then we start creating an imbalance in our ability to neutralize the free radicals because our cell has to turn its production into the making of all those inflammatory proteins. And that, of course, means our engines in the cell, to look at it another way, the number of reactions we can do get limited in the production of antioxidants because we're making more and more inflammatory molecules. So how does that happen? Well, it happens because there is a master regulator in there, and it's called NRF2. And we can put that real long name that NRF2 has together, but it's nice and easy and not a tongue twister to say NRF2. NRF2, when it's left attached to where it's anchored, cannot help us turn on the switch that will allow us to return to the production of lots of antioxidants. But when we stroke it with the right chemicals and release it, it sends signals to the nucleus or the command center of our cell, and we start making millions of molecules of antioxidants per second, again, as if we were newborns. What a miracle.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, what an incredible discovery. The minute I read that science, I was transformed. I'm a cardiologist of 50 years duration, and I spent the vast majority of my career breaking plaques, putting in balloons, putting stents, treating the disease. But here we have the very essence of disease, how it happens. We have now knowledge that says free radicals attached to a neutralizing antioxidant, attach, cause injury, lead to inflammation, which leads to scar, which leads to aging, which is the beginning of all disease. Wow. Now that's something else, isn't it? So this has been a 50-year journey for me to get there. And just recently I went to my 50th year medical school reunion and asked some of my classmates, do you remember when Dr. Handler said this? Almost no one did. You know why? Not a single one of them heard about NRF2. No one knew what Protandim was. And most of them looked at me kind of cockeyed and said, Benny, what are you doing? And I said, well, what I've learned is amazing, and what I hope you go learn and read about is going to change your life. So I said to myself, maybe I ought to be like the fella from Missouri and see for myself. So I took 100 patients in my practice. I put them all on Protandim after I measured their inflammatory markers. Remember, free radical, injury, inflammation. Therefore, markers of inflammation should be up. So if I give something that's going to subdue that, my inflammation markers should come down. In fact, every one of those 100 patients had a drop to almost normal, and in most cases, normal levels of inflammatory markers. Well, that convinced me. I now say to every patient who comes in my office who's new, you need to be treated for your blood pressure. Here's the medicine that's going to do it. But blood pressure problems, elevated blood pressure, is the result of you having had inflammatory changes in your arteries, and it's caused by this process. So I want you to also take this other thing, which is a natural product. And if you do that, you're going to stop the progression of making plaque and scar, and therefore have an easier time, less medicine, to control your blood pressure. That's my way of saying I recommend Protandim to every single patient in my practice. And that's how I got to have 3,500 patients on it. Now, since I've said to you that everything in medicine that's illness is inflammatory, scar, chronic illness, that means that every human being alive should be on Protandim, in my opinion. Because we all, until we die, will breathe oxygen and have any oxidant needs to neutralize the inflammatory process that's caused by the injury from the free radicals. So I can tell you that this is the greatest discovery in my medical career. And even though I did a lot of first things, so people talk about, the most important thing I've ever done is discovered the whole cycle in the cell through our colleagues in science about Protandim and how those food substances interact with our genes and our cells to protect us against disease and to make us better. So that's been my journey, and I'm very happy to share it with you. I hope it means something to you. I can tell you that I take it myself, have since the day I learned about it. And I'll tell you a little story about me. I had to start and stop it 4 times. And that's because I had a very significant allergic state. And it was just causing me an enormous amount of toxic waste being neutralized. Well, I finally put on my big boy pants and took it every day, no matter what happened to me. And some bad things happened. And now I take it every single day, don't even know it comes in. The minute I stop it, I know I've stopped it, and I take it all over again. So let me say to you all that you and all your friends and anyone you care about and anyone in your life that you know, recommending this medicine, whether they're in the business of Life Vantage or not, should be on this product because it is age extending and illness preventing. And that's my story.
Doctor, question for you. So being a doctor, and you've known about this for 3.5 years now, is it, or 4 years?
Well, almost 5.
Oh, almost 5. So when you came into this, how many on your online medical journal, how many peer-reviewed studies were done on this product 5 years ago?
At the time I came on, I believe there were 6 or 7. Now I think there are about 25 or 6, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot more coming out in the whole field of antioxidant therapy in general. So I can't really tell you how many are precisely about.
Yeah, I think we are up to 26 right now. So being a highly scholared cardiologist, medical professional, what kind of gravity does that give you in this whole, what we are standing on here? I mean, does that kind of like, as a medical professional, and talk to us quickly, because I heard you say this once in one of your, and this is the 2-part question. So the second half of it, this is made with these 5 little herbs, and tell the story about people going out and buying those herbs and what that did for inflammation. Yeah. That's a good one.
Of course, you're always going to have the doubting Thomases, whether they're your colleagues or patients, and because the pill costs X number of cents or dollars, they said, well, I can go to the general food store and I can buy this myself and pay 1/100th of the cost. I said, the problem is that you're going to go and buy these 5 products, and unless you take them in the proper proportion and in the chemical composition that has been put together, you will not do well. So we had one patient that said, oh, no, that can't be possible. So he came in one day, and all of his markers of inflammation were up again, way beyond his initial readings. And we said, you must have stopped Protandim. No, I take all 5 substances every day. And we said, we told you that would happen. You can't do that. So it is very important to understand in the chemical world, it is not that you have the 5 substances, it's that you have the 5 substances in the proper relationship to one another. And that's what makes the difference. That's what turns on the switch of the NRF2 molecule. That's what allows us to get the big production of antioxidants. So I think that's the main answer.
So that was exactly what I had heard, and I wanted you to share. Now, quickly, just real quick, in a nutshell, talk to us about NRF1 and our mitochondria.
I often say to patients, let me ask you, Bill, when's the last time you took your car in for a checkup? He says, oh, I did that at my 5,000-mile checkup last week. Why do you do that? Well, I do that because that's my engine, it's the power plant of my car. I gotta make sure it's working okay. I said, well, do you ever take your mitochondria in? Huh? I said, mitochondria, they're the power plants of your cells, and they're constantly working to keep you alive and make all the proteins in your cells you need. So if you want to keep your power plant of your body in good order, you need to think about taking this product. What does it do? It helps repair and increase the production of mitochondria, which are the power plants of our bodies and our cells. So therefore, if we want to feel better, we want to look better, we want to have more energy, the NRF1 molecule is activated by this product, the NRF1 activator. It goes to the nucleus, and a whole series of new mitochondrial favorable genes and proteins come out to repair the mitochondria and increase their production.
Now, that was awesome. and I've heard it said that it's like the NRF1 or the mitochondria is putting out like the exhaust out of your cells, right? And it's releasing, when they're healthy, it's releasing things that out of your cells, which are the free radicals, which then the NRF2 need to bring away and out of your body. Is that how that works?
So you got that right.
Okay.
You got that right.
Okay, so now in closing, we'll wrap this up because you're a busy doctor, and I value your time, and every single person listening is literally hanging on every word you're saying. I have one last question for you. When you give anybody in the medical field medication and they take it for a day or two and go, Dr. Benny, this is just not working for me, so I'm just not going to take it anymore. We get that all the time. Well, Becky, this is not just this. I don't feel any changes in my body. Nothing's happening. I'm not going to take it. Cancel my subscription, and I don't ever want to take this again. Will you, as a physician, as a very highly scholared doctor, will you talk to us about how this works and why we?
Don't be surprised when that happens, and don't feel bad when it happens. Don't think you've played any role in that not being successful. The problem is that in the world of medicine, if you give any medicine to a patient, the likelihood of them still being on it 1 year later is about 50%. So the real issue is to educate. So what I tell patients when they say that to me is that, do you like your blood pressure medicine? Oh, yeah, look, my blood pressure is 120/80, it's controlled. Can you feel it? No. Can you feel it when you come off the medicine? Yeah, I get headaches. Okay. How about your cholesterol? I tell you it was high, and then I showed you the results when we put you on your medication. Did you feel that? No, I didn't feel that. That's the same thing that happens in your cells. You can't feel all the things that are going on in your cells. So you need to trust me, the teacher, that this is an ongoing process producing potential disease in your body. And one of the ways to combat it, amongst other things, is you take these 2 pills because they are going to help you deal with the energy cells and its productivity and neutralizing all of the exhaust or free radicals that are occurring. So from my point of view, the only way you're going to know for sure is when you come off of it, you're going to come back to me and say, Dr. Benny, I got to get back on it. Yes, I know you'll say that because that's what's happened every time.
Wow. So don't get off. So one last thing. I'm sorry. I'm so excited to have you. One last thing. There's a quote that I love, and I use it all the time, but coming from a study that took place in Washington State University we're on the opposite sides of the nation. I'm in Washington State, and Washington State University had a study. And in that study, they quoted that NRF2 activation is perhaps the most extraordinary therapeutic and the most extraordinary, they use the word twice, preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. What say you about that 28-page study and that quote? In closing, and I promise that's my last question.
Well, I think you know the answer. I think it is an absolutely accurate statement. When we can extend our knowledge to the depths of the microbiochemical reactions that are occurring in our cells and understand the mechanisms that are normal and how they go awry, we have made an incredible impact on our opportunity to extend life and fight disease. To me, I will not go with that statement 100%. I will go this far. It is the greatest discovery in my medical career.
That's a long time. That's 50 years. That's 50 years.
It is.
You guys hear that? Do you guys hear that? That's like, that was from his own mouth, okay? 50 years, the greatest discovery. And so in closing, first of all, Dr. Benny, you are a real deal, down to earth, genuine human being who I just absolutely respect and adore. And I can't wait to put in his foundation that he has. He is the CEO and chairman of. He's very passionate about. He just got back from a trip on that. So I'm going to be putting that in the comments of your foundation so people can look at where your heart is. This is where your heart, your big, beautiful heart, you help people heal hearts, is because you have a big heart yourself. So thank you for joining me today and all these people. And so this people was for you. If somebody has shared this video with you today, it's because they love you enough that they wanted you to hear this story coming from a very, very, very renowned, well-spoken cardiologist who really explains things well. I have learned so much. People are like riveting on all over this, like chills, and people are like, I'm in tears. So you already, just in this little broadcast, have affected a lot of lives. So
I'll look forward to seeing you at the next Elite Academy.
I will be there. I will be in Anaheim with bells on, and I can't wait to give you a big warm hug and tell you thank you in person. And it's been my absolute honor to have you, and it's been everybody's honor who got to watch you. Everybody go out and have a beautiful day. Dr. Benny, have a beautiful day. And with our heartfelt gratitude from me and everyone else watching, we thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.